In 2022, buyers are looking for the best value and the best deals. But more importantly, they're looking for a crossover that provides a good amount of interior space, a lot of practicality, efficiency, and also a vehicle that is going to be a great daily driver and fit for their daily lifestyles. And the Honda CR-V for the past 7 years for the 5th generation has been that crossover. We've taken a look at the Nissan Rogue, Ford Escape, Toyota RAV4, Volkswagen Tiguan, and also the Hyundai Tucson. But it's the Honda CR-V that's always escaped my grasp, and I've wanted to check out this vehicle for a very long time to understand why so many Americans come back for more. Why I know so many people who say, yeah, this is my 3rd or 4th CR-V. And I think there's a lot of good reasons as to why. And in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the CR-V, check out all the features that this crossover comes with, and also see why, if you are looking at buying a crossover today, right now, and you don't want to wait for a 2023 CR-V, then maybe taking a look at a 5th generation CR-V might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Honda North in Danvers, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Honda inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. In the compact crossover market, you have a wide range of vehicles to choose from, especially at or below the $40,000 mark, as the Americans, Japanese, Koreans, and even the Germans with the Volkswagen Tiguan all have viable options in this segment. But the Honda CR-V, much like the Toyota RAV4, is the benchmark that everyone has been striving to compete against and overtake. Yet they've never been the flashiest or the most cutting edge. Honda's approach has heavily relied upon their impeccable reliability, but also their unwavering commitment to offering the intangibles, such as being practical, efficient, and family-friendly. And even as this generation's time comes to an end, it's still a go-to pick if you're in need of a crossover. Starting off with pricing, the CR-V we have today is an EXL, coming in at just under $32,000. Whenever you hear the CR-V being brought up in a conversation, your first thought is that it's a spacious and larger crossover than some of its closest competitors, such as the Ford Escape and Mazda CX-5. Yet in reality, its exterior dimensions aren't too far off from the rest of the pack. In terms of size, the CR-V has a length of 182 inches, a width of 73 inches, and a height of around 67 inches, which is about identical to the RAV4, but slightly smaller than a Volkswagen Tiguan. While the CR-V was designed for city and suburban driving, you will have a ground clearance of 7.8 inches, which should be enough to tackle some light off-roading and unplowed roads during the winter. Unlike so many of the CR-V's competitors, Honda has never been in the business of being verbose, nor have they deviated away from what this crossover has been all about for the last 25 years. While others have gone sporty or trendy, the CR-V has remained true to the fundamentals, and the road presence reflects that. With the facelift that started for the 2020 model, Honda's best-selling vehicle did become a bit more aggressive up front, as they reshaped the front bumper but also trimmed down on the chrome accents, which did cheapen the look of the CR-V. With this model being an EXL, we do have LED fog lights to help illuminate dimly lit streets. And while Honda still uses halogen headlamps, LED daytime running lights does give this crossover a modern appearance. Moving over to the side profile, for the EX trim and up, the CR-V will be sitting on 18-inch alloy wheels, but for the LX and SE, 17s do come standard. Even with the larger wheels, this crossover handles the bumps pretty well, and the suspension is forgiving, so you won't be cringing as you roll over imperfections in the road. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators, to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the most eye-catching aesthetic will be the smoked taillights for a sleeker appearance. But once again, for this particular generation, Honda kept the design very simple but also evolutionary compared to the CR-Vs that preceded this model. The chrome accents that outline the window and the brushed aluminum strip on the bumper adds a nice color contrast, and tucked away are dual exhaust outlets to keep the rear fascia looking clean. Under the hood, the CR-V is powered by a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 190 horsepower and 179 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a CVT. Despite its lack of athletic characteristics and mild-mannered on-road demeanor, the CR-V is capable of going from 0 to 60 in less than 8 seconds, which is quick enough to get on the highway safely and allows you to pass slower drivers. When it comes to the drivetrain, front-wheel drive does come standard, but we have all-wheel drive to take on winter road conditions. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 27 miles per gallon in the city and 32 miles per gallon on the highway, but we recommend opting for the hybrid if efficiency is a top priority. Stepping inside for the EXL and Touring trims, you're greeted by power adjustable and heated leather trimmed seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side being 2-position memory for added convenience. What Honda has excelled at for many years is offering an adequate amount of comfort and support to help make longer drives more enjoyable. Compared to its successor, this generation's CR-V will have a slightly more minimal interior layout, specifically when discussing the technology, as in front of you, between the analog gauges, a digital display will showcase a variety of information, including the fuel range, attention awareness, and vehicle settings. As part of the long list of safety features that Honda offers is from the steering wheel, where you can activate lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control to ensure that you get to your destination safely. Then moving over to the infotainment system, the CR-V will be equipped with a 7-inch touchscreen, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. But if you decide to upgrade to the Touring, a wireless phone charging pad and onboard navigation will enhance your experience behind the wheel. Much like we've seen from many competitors, this user interface is rather simplistic, and not as in-depth as the head units that can now be found in the Accord, Civic, and HR-V. However, buyers who aren't interested in having a tech-filled cabin will love the simplicity and responsiveness of this screen. Mounted on the left are touch-sensitive buttons that will get you to different menus, and you'll also find the physical dial for the volume control. You'll have a multi-angle rear backup camera with trajectory, and for the EX trim and above, rear cross-traffic alert adds another layer of safety when backing out of a tight spot. Below, on the EXL and Touring models, dual zone climate control does come standard, and to the delight of many, there will be physical dials and buttons for the 3-level heated seats and front and rear defrosters. Since the CR-V is not a sporty crossover by any means, you don't have a drive mode selector per se, but mounted on the right of the gear shifter, you can engage Eco mode to maximize fuel range. For the center console, there will be 2 USB inputs and a tray for a smartphone. And for the center storage compartment, there will be enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, above for the EX trim and up, a power moonroof will let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the driver's side. And this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have an abundant amount of legroom to work with here. Now, I'm not the tallest person out there, but I do think that if you are looking at buying a Honda CR-V, you're buying one because you want the practicality and the interior spacing, but also you have a family. And if you are cross-shopping some of the rivals, you probably noticed that for compact crossovers, they're just that. They're compact, and that some vehicles aren't offering the best when it comes to legroom. But the CR-V is one of the better alternatives in this market. And better yet, you do have a good amount of headroom as well. So that way, if you do have taller passengers, maybe on the height of 5'9", 5'10", possibly 6 feet tall, I think everyone should be comfortable back here for sure. Then moving on to the center seat, you are going to notice a minor lip, which really doesn't affect legroom that much at all. However, this is one of those rare occasions where I do think you can fit a third person back here on a daily basis. Now, I am not saying you're going to have 3 average size adults back here, but if you do have smaller kids, it can certainly work. And that's one thing I don't really talk about too much in this market, because you're going to want to go with a 3-row if you do have a bigger family. But the CR-V, with its interior spacing and focus and emphasis on being family friendly, I think the CR-V can definitely work if you do have 3 people back here. And then on the passenger side, the seat is adjusted all the way back and somewhat on a recline, and I still have a good amount of legroom to work with here. So if you are looking for a compact crossover at the price range between $30,000 and $35,000, I think the CR-V is a great vehicle because it is offering a good amount of practicality, interior spacing, and best of all, a good amount of comfort as well. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents to go along with 2 USB inputs. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 39.2 cubic feet of room to work with, which will outclass the RAV4, the Ford Escape, Volkswagen Tiguan, and Nissan Rogue. It's only outclassed by the new Kia Sportage, but that's not really a fair comparison since the Sportage just came out and we're waiting for the 2023 model for the CR-V. Now you're going to have plenty of space back here to fit all your items, whether you are going on a road trip with the family or you're like me and you have camera gear with you. So I was able to fit all my camera gear today and then some. So there's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and I probably got to go on grocery shopping after as well. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 75.8 cubic feet of room. And again, that sits at the top of the list in this segment. So really overall, what you have here with the CR-V is a spacious vehicle that's not only perfect for your family, but if you don't use the second row seats, you can have plenty of space for maybe skis and snowboards or longer items if you do maybe have a business and you need to store stuff back here every single day during the week. Then on either side of the rear cargo area, you are going to notice quick release latches that will conveniently lower the second row seats. So that way, if you are in a hurry, you can just lower them instantly and you can load up this vehicle with all your equipment. Also on either side of the rear cargo area, you're going to notice some cubbies for some smaller items, possibly car detail equipment, water bottles, or a first aid kit. Then beneath the floor mat, and this is becoming very rare to see in this market, is a spare tire. So if you do encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And finally, a feature that I really like is the rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have expensive camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. The Honda CR-V is one of those vehicles that you take a look at it on paper and you're like, all right, so there's a good amount of practicality, a lot of interior space, it is fuel efficient, especially if you go with the hybrid model, and the performance, even though it's not a barnstormer in its segment, is more than sufficient. But what is it about this crossover that draws Americans back for more? Why do we know family members or friends in our circle that have purchased 2, 3, possibly 4 of these during their car ownership history? And a lot of it can be going back to the practicality and also the second row seating area, where it is perfect if you do have a family and smaller kids. But I believe there has to be a lot more to that, because if the CR-V isn't a great vehicle to drive, people will definitely look elsewhere, because there are other options on the market that have similar amounts of cargo space that are rather spacious for the second row and come nowhere close to the sales figures that we see with the CR-V. Now, I think reliability does play a role in that. But being behind the wheel for the past 15 minutes or so with this crossover, I can understand the appeal because it is very smooth. It's actually very comfortable as well. The leather upholstery does provide a premium feel to them, but also there's a good amount of support as well, even though they're not aggressively bolstered. But what's really drawing my attention is the suspension. Now, we do have the 18-inch wheels, which aren't really playing a major role in the ride comfort. In fact, I've really enjoyed my time behind the wheel of this vehicle. Now, compared to its closest rivals, like the Ford Escape or even the Volkswagen Tiguan, I think the Honda CR-V feels a bit more composed than the Ford Escape and the Nissan Rogue. What you are going to notice is that the CVT, there is no mimics of the gear shifts at all, so it's not like a Subaru Outback or Forester, but it doesn't drone that much at all. I actually find this powertrain to be rather quiet, especially at around 30 miles an hour. There's really no droning, and I don't really find myself complaining about the noise that's entering the cabin of this vehicle. Now, when it comes to the exterior dimensions, it is a bit smaller than the Volkswagen Tiguan. But I think a lot of buyers are going to love the fact that it feels maneuverable, that on these winding back roads, the steering does provide a good amount of confidence, where even though this isn't an agile vehicle by any means, it also doesn't have the most sportiest or rigid suspensions. You are going to be able to take corners at around 35, 40 miles an hour, no problem. And let's get one acceleration for you guys. I am going to try getting on the highway before I get the keys back to the dealership. Now, 0 to 60 times are around 8 seconds, might be just a bit below that, which, to be honest, when you take a look at the horsepower and torque numbers, and also the fact that this is a CVT, that's actually not that bad at all. It would be right in line with a lot of its closest competitors. What I do like, though, about this crossover is that when it comes to the driving environment, even though you don't have the softest touch materials on the dashboard and even on the door panels as well, it still feels very well refined in here. It feels higher quality considering the price point. You're looking at around $32,000 for an EXL, and really I think this is exactly what you could have hoped for at this price point. Now, when it comes to overall vision, being behind the wheel of the CR-V, in front of you have a nice panoramic view. A-pillars are not really aggressive at all. When it comes to the side mirrors, they're placed in a great spot, but also they're decently sized, so I can see what's in my blind spots. And then looking out back, the headrest, even though they are up, they're not really getting in the way at all, so I can see what's behind me. Also, when it comes to seating position, that was one of the first things I noticed when I stepped inside the CR-V, and you do sit pretty high up in this crossover, so you can see everything around you and have a nice commanding feel over the road and commanding view, where I think it just adds a lot of safety as well for this vehicle. As expected, there's no surprises with the Honda CR-V. It doesn't throw you any curveballs. The only thing that's really drawn my attention is the fact that the interior quality is not only on par with some of the rivals in this market and price range, but I think it might be a bit better. Also, the suspension has actually been a pleasant surprise, where I was expecting to feel the jolts a bit more, especially for a non-luxurious vehicle, and yet I think that this is more than adequate, more than sufficient for its price point. Now, let's get on the highway here. Now, it doesn't mimic gear shifts at all, unlike what we see from Subaru. However, it doesn't drone like the Nissan Rogue I had reviewed, I think, last year. But it's still, I think, a good pairing. Even though the CVT is not my favorite transmission whatsoever, it does do the job quite well, and I think it does fit the personality of the CR-V quite well. Now, on the highway and at highway speeds, you don't really hear a lot of road noise at all, and that has been the reoccurring theme with this vehicle. Now, of course, it can always be quieter, but at a price point of around $30,000, this would be more than I would expect, especially compared to some of the closer rivals in this market. But more importantly, the CR-V doesn't try being something it's not. It's not a sporty crossover. It's not going to give you a weighted steering. It's not going to give you a sports car experience. It's a daily driver, and that's exactly what it is. Once again, love the brake feel. Handling, love the handling here. Very composed, very minimal body roll. So it does the job, and I think that's what's answered my question today with this test drive, is that I think this is really the icing on the cake for the CR-V. That sure, everyone will say, well, I bought it because it's spacious, I bought it because it's practical, or I bought it because it's fuel efficient. But let's be honest here. A lot of people purchase this crossover because it's the entire package. It's the driving experience, it's the driving dynamics, it's the interior comfort, it's the ride quality, and then also the intangibles as well. So to wrap up my time with this CR-V and also this generation as a whole, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this compact crossover? And is it still worth taking a look at even though the 2023 model is on the horizon? And what I'm going to say here is this. Whether you are looking at buying one of the last 2022s or you're looking at buying a used 20 to 2022 model year, it's very difficult to pass up what this vehicle is offering because you get a good amount of interior space, a lot of practicality, a comfortable interior, but also I think a comfortable driving experience as well. Sure, it's not dynamic, it's not sporty at all, it's not going to get your heart racing, but it's a great all-around daily driver for you and your family. Also, you do have the option to go with the hybrid model to really get better efficiency. And I think that's why this specific generation has done quite well for itself and has really been the vehicle of choice for many Americans because it does give you everything you could possibly want at a price point below $40,000. And if you are looking to buy a compact crossover at around $30,000 to $35,000 and you're like, you know what, I don't really like the options that are out there currently, vehicle prices are a bit high, this vehicle is aged rather gracefully. Even though the interior is a bit outdated with the smaller infotainment system and of course the physical buttons and dials, I think a lot of Americans, specifically Honda buyers, prefer it that way. And I believe you're going to find that the CR-V is still a great option, even though it is on its way out for this specific generation. You might be able to get a better deal as well, maybe in a couple of months when the 2023s arrive. And that's why I feel that this generation right here is a great alternative, especially if you need to buy a crossover right now. You have that interior space, you have that practicality if you want to go on that longer road trip with the family, and also you have the great efficiency and that fuel economy that I think is really a must-have for a vehicle right now in 2022. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.